This is going to be an important topic of discussion this year in the SEC, which is can you have in conference transfers occur, but they have to occur before spring practices? That's something that Kirby Smart, Jimbo, Nick, all of the guys are discussing as a rule in the SEC. And this is what Kirby had to say about it. He said, um, I prefer things. I prefer the way things currently are, where there's two windows. I think there's a I think that it's tremendously difficult to go through 3 to 4 months of workouts and spring practice, and then have your roster change within your conference. It's one thing to say on May 1st, a guy can leave and go anywhere he wants to go. He said that happens, and I think a lot of times that's good for the player. We've had some kids that realize in the spring they may not get the opportunity they desired, and they wanted to look at other schools. There's hundreds of schools you can look at. To say they can't go in the SEC, I think it's a good thing to have a date set earlier. They make a decision coming out of the season if they want to explore other options within the SEC, but we'll see how the meetings go. I think that's I don't think you want your players transferring within the league, you know, after spring ball. I don't this is a sort of happy medium what he's discussing, what Kirby's discussing, where you can go ahead and transfer. You can, if you play at Georgia and you want to transfer to Florida, you can do it. You just got to do it right after football, right after the season ends. I don't see anything wrong with that necessarily. Of course, back in the day, you simply just could not do that on a lot of different levels. And now we're seeing where guys can leave within the league I think you can leave and go, and your deadline to transfer anywhere is May 1st. And Kirby talked about that, saying I prefer the way things currently are, where there's two windows. If I were the SEC, I would make sure there is a rule in place that okay, our in conference transfers have to be completed by February 1st. Period. And that's for football. For basketball, I would make it, May, let's see, April 1st or April, just say April 15th. And then another one that would be inside the league, and then another one, by May, whatever, or June 1st. Because, this is the Premier League. And this is something that Jerry Moorhead talked about yesterday on Paul Feinbaum's show. Jerry Moorhead, for those of you who do not know, is the president of the University of Georgia. He's also the president of the SEC right now, and he's heavily involved in restructuring the NCAA. But what's going on right now is you've got a situation where there's a lot of free market out there. There's a lot of do whatever you want to do in college sports, and it scares people. It bothers them in a big way. Um, that's not the NCAA that I played under, um, but I don't know that the NCAA I played under was the right call. I think now is a more fair way of doing things. If guys don't want to be at a place, why would you make them sit out? These guys are 18, 20-year-old kids. They shouldn't be punished for a year in the prime of their athletic career. And the vast majority of guys do not play professional sports. There's no reason to penalize them. But if they want to transfer inside the conference, yeah, that should maybe not be as easy to pull off after spring ball. I think it's a completely reasonable rule, um, and I think the SEC, because of its situation, should very seriously consider that that it keep to where you can't transfer after spring ball. After spring ball, you're talking about you've got a lot of data and information from this year's team. If you're a player, if you're a quarterback, if you're a quarterback, and that's going to be a lot of the guys that transfer. If you are Max Johnson, who has gone to Texas A&M, and I do not recall Max's situation leaving LSU. He is leaving LSU Now, I think he left before, but let's just say for the purposes of this argument that Max Johnson left LSU after installing everything in the spring with Brian Kelly, knowing and seeing all the players on the offensive side of the ball and defensive, and then he leaves on May 1st because he's not going to be the starter. Okay, um, that's that's not very fair, I wouldn't say, or at least that's less fair than what you'd really want. And this is going to come up in the league more and more and more. Now, if, like, for instance, Amarius Mims, he goes down to visit Florida State, if he wanted to visit and go to transfer to Florida State, you know, whatever. But each league can determine their own rules, and in this case, they should. We have gotten to the point where it is more valuable to be a player in the SEC than it is in the ACC. It is more valuable to be in this league with its massive television contracts and viewership than it is to be in any other league. Um, and so there's value in being in the SEC. There's value in being in an NIL deal. Being the starting quarterback at Texas A&M is probably just as valuable as being the starting quarterback at LSU. So the value is there, and the question becomes, what is the right time? What is the right place to do it? Again, Kirby's comments. I prefer things currently where they are, where there's 2 windows. I think that it's tremendously difficult to go through 3 to 4 months of workouts and spring practice and then have your roster change within your league. He said there's hundreds of schools you can go to. To say they can't go in the SEC, I think it's good to have a date set earlier. They make a decision coming out of the season if they want to explore their options within the SEC. We'll see how the meetings go. We've seen a lot of guys from Georgia go on to play against Georgia in the last 10 years. Trey Matthews, Brent Cox. You've had, J.J. Green went to play at Georgia Tech, which is not in the league. Um, there's been several guys that it's happened with. I just don't know if transferring in the league. I don't think there's anything wrong with saying, hey, you have to transfer within the league by an earlier date, sort of before signing day, and that is what it is. And if you don't transfer, then you have to transfer to another conference, of which you can go play at Georgia Tech or Wake Forest or Florida State or whatever. You just can't play in the SEC. It's a league rule. It's not against that particular player, and it is what it is. Make sure you're picking up DAWGSTRUCTION. The link is down below. Thanks for everybody watching. Hey, we'll see you over on the website.